Yep, we're on.
Hey, good people.
Hello there.
He is Marco Zingaretti.
And she is Nathan Sank Zingaretti now.
And together we are Different Strokes MNZ.
Exactly.
All right, so most of you would know our YouTube channel. All right, that channel basically is about our day-to-day experiences. And it's more trivial, I'll say. So we have this segment, and this particular segment is our podcast. This is our very first podcast episode.
Exactly.
And it's Different Strokes MNZ, but seriously. Now, I'm saying this because we are going to be discussing a wide range of issues that range from childhood, upbringing, rape,
criminality,
racism. Now, these are issues that most people shy away from discussing. They are issues that affect us on a day-to-day basis. When I say us, I'm talking about the society as a whole. And so we decided to take this up because most of the issues are close to our hearts. So this segment is called Different Strokes MNZ, Family Matters. So today we have decided to cover the topic of childhood. And I know a lot of people would relate to childhood because, hey, everybody had a childhood.
Exactly.
So I'll start with mine. I'll share with you how I was brought up, how my childhood was. So in essence, I wouldn't really say I had a childhood as such. Okay, I was born in Soweto, Zone 3 Diepkloof. To those that know Zone 3 Diepkloof, they would know it's in Johannesburg, because obviously Soweto is in Johannesburg. To cut the long story short, was brought up by a single parent. My mother and father divorced. I think it was in the early 80s, probably around 82. Nobody wants to talk about that for whatever reason, and some of us never push on those issues. But anyway, I went to primary school right from being looked after from home, so I didn't really have going to creche or
kindergarten.
So I never had that experience. A lot of people would tell you their experience. Hey, it doesn't really matter, but I think for a while I was pretty happy. I can remember a few times when I was happy until, unfortunately, I had an experience where I got sexually molested at the age of 8. I was sent to the shops to buy a couple of things for my mother to entertain some people, but unfortunately that particular day was unfortunate. So it happened, brush it off and then you just try and carry on with your life. I then had siblings that were born after me, younger sisters, 2 younger sisters and a younger brother. And unfortunately, well, I will say fortunately, but then it's unfortunate, and I'll tell you why. I kind of, brought them up at the age of 9. I started learning how to cook. And for my the youngest siblings, I was, really, really playing a motherly role because mom had to go to work. I had to wash nappies. Back then we didn't have all these
appliances.
But not appliances, but we didn't have nappies like we have now, with the
Back in the day,
Pampers.
like
and
the old cloth
Huggies.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had cotton
Yeah.
nappies that
Exactly.
you had to wash, and you know, my mom was very strict about that, because if I hadn't washed them properly for whatever reason, maybe I was tired from school, she would make me wash them again. And all those things, you know, take place. Some of the things that should happen during your childhood, you know, like being playful, being happy, being carefree, go missing, you know, somewhere along the line. So I became very rebellious towards my mom, towards my siblings. I was resentful. I remember getting beaten up silly, like to a point where you actually think to yourself, Lord, take me now. I mean, I've had enough. And at some stage in my life, I didn't even feel being beaten up anymore. I would be like, it was a normal occurrence. It was something that was so normal. And for me, that being normalized took away what a parent should have been, what a parent should have represented in my life. Loving, caring, nurturing, etc. That I missed. And I missed the affection of a parent, you know, because as I stipulated, my mom was a single parent, raising kids on her own, and my dad was not in the picture. So it so happened that again at the age of 14 I was sexually molested. Now this unfortunate thing happened when a family friend asked me to go and cook for them and clean for them at 14. My mom allowed me to go there, and you can just imagine what happened. A 49-year-old man alone with a 14-year-old child in a house. So these things I'm talking about now because they are to a large extent they are liberating. They help to lift off the weight.
Yeah.
I'm now able to speak about such things without falling apart, without just breaking down and crying and being a mess, because that is how I found my healing. That's how I found that forgiveness. Even when somebody hasn't come back to you or come to you to ask for forgiveness and you know, beg that you pardon them for whatever they did to you, but the fact that I could say to myself, you know what, I'm letting go of the hurt, I'm letting go of the pain, I'm forgiving those men for whatever happened to me. I'm forgiving my parents for not being there to protect me, for not being there to nurture me as a child. I need to have that freedom, and that freedom can only come from me letting go, and letting go would come from me forgiving.
But would you say that, you know, you're forgiving, you forgive everything, you know, but would you blame your mother for what happened to you that day?
For a very long time, I did blame her. Yeah. I blamed her because I went to the shops because she was entertaining people,
right,
first of all.
Okay.
And that's why I was sent to the shops. And the second time around, I mean, I would never even dare, even think about sending my daughter off to anyone, let alone a man that lives on his own. And I did blame her for a very long time. You know, why would you do that? Why would you send me to go and cook for some guy just because he's a family friend?
And her response was?
We're not going to touch on that, but anyway, her response was very nonchalant. It was, well, why didn't you tell me about it? And that was the end of the discussion. It wasn't, you know what, maybe we need to find you counseling, maybe we need to talk about it as a family so you can offload and just find your healing and closure. There was none of that. I expected that, but it never came. And that's the reason why I had to forgive everybody. You know what I'm saying? Not the man that did whatever they did to me, but forgive my mother as well. And find the peace within myself and move on.
So what brings, after what happened, you know, the power, the strength to forgive a person after something like that?
Honestly speaking, it can never be easy. It's not easy because the hurt is still there. It's the day to day, step by step, day by day type of experience that you go through, and just telling yourself that you need to find healing, and then finding that healing within yourself, because at the end of the day, no one is going to give you that healing. Okay, I mean, I've gone for therapy. I've gone, you know, for a couple of sessions, and for me, at the end of it all, right? And I want to say this. I know the topics, some of the topics that we're going to be discussing or covering are going to be triggering to many people. Finding yourself in a situation or a point where you are violated, and to you lose your self-worth. You lose part of yourself within that experience, is a very, very difficult thing. And that's why we have such a high rate of suicide, because a lot of people never come out of that hole. A lot of people find it very difficult to actually find the strength to get out of the hole, to get out of the trap, right? And for me, the strength I found in religion, I found in going to church, in helping others. Helping others is very, very important in one's healing. That's what I found. And the experience might be different for many people, but this is my experience. And I'm saying, if you still have the anger for whatever reason, and it is natural, it is justified, you are going to keep hurting yourself, all right? Because the person that did, you know, a horrible thing to you might not even come to you to ask for forgiveness, but find that healing within yourself. If you don't have religion and you have family, then you have more than enough. You have way more than enough. I find healing also in speaking to my sister, my older sister.
Yeah.
And for me, that is a great deal. That's a great deal.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I hear you when you talk to her, and I mean,
yeah.
Unfortunately, I understand practically nothing of what you're saying, but I can feel the energy in the call, you know. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enough about me.
Okay, we're done for tonight.
No.
Well,
yeah.
What to say? I was born in England. My father was Italian. My mother was Portuguese. And I lived in England for about 17 years. My upbringing, what can I say? My parents did all they could to keep me on track, but you know, I was always the wild card, you know. I don't know what it was, but I've always been very energetic, you know. And the fact, you know, that I was I've always been overweight, you know. At school, people think that I'm the bully, you know. But I was getting bullied quite a lot for my weight and whatever. And that brought me to become, you know, what can I say? I'm not going to say a violent person, but, you know, defend myself, stick up for myself, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, I continued. I mean, I played rugby, I picked up boxing, you know. What can I say, you know? In England, the things were okay. I mean, my mother was a very religious person. My father was quite present, but he was working a lot, so he was always out of the house maybe like 15, 16 hours a day. So I hardly ever saw him, because maybe when he'd get back from work, or I'd probably be sleeping, or when he would leave for work, I'd still be in bed, you know. So, but they've always been there for me. I can't say they haven't. I got myself into trouble as a kid, you know. As I said, I was the wild card. I actually went from the age of 4.5, 5 to about 12, where I had to go to a psychiatrist, you know, because I was driving my parents mad. I was very vindictive. It's not like I was a bad child, you know, but I wouldn't let anybody walk over me or take advantage of, you know, the situation. And in the end, they actually sent social workers home, because, you know, what happened was I was going to the psychiatrist, you know, and I was very, very, I'm not going to say intelligent, but I was, you know, quite astute. So they would put me in a room where there's the double-sided mirror, you know, to check on what I was doing. And I would pick up a toy, play with it, and then put it precisely back where it was. And the doctor kept seeing these things, and he's like, wait a minute, he actually doubted my mother.
Parents.
He actually doubted my mother, thinking that she was the one that was going mad, you know. But then the social worker was sent home, and they saw the way I was behaving. So, but apart from that, you know, as a childhood, I've always, as I said, been loved. Never really had, you know, they of course, we weren't rich, but whatever they could,
yeah,
they would get for me, you know, or at least try me have, make me have the happiest childhood that we could, you know,
yeah,
money permitting. Then afterwards I moved to Italy. Then that's where it started going a bit south, you know. Started going out with the wrong people,
yeah,
doing the wrong things.
mm.
It ended up, you know, in a club that, let's just say, brought out the violent side of me, you know. But, yeah.
Which is very interesting. I think that the question that I'd like to ask is, what do you think plays a role in how we come out, how we end up? Do you think it's society, or is it the upbringing itself?
That's a very, very good question, a very intelligent question, if I may say. I would think it's a bit of both, you know, the upbringing. As I said, you know, I didn't really always have that father figure. And my mum I'd see not very often, because she would work nights.
Yeah.
So when theoretically, you know, I was at home, she was at work.
Yes.
And then there was my dad, but they would actually hire a babysitter as well, because, you know, because they were very hard workers. So I'm not going to say that I didn't have parents, but let's just say I don't think I spent enough time with them to maybe become a better person. I don't know. And in society, of course, you know, it's like taking a kid into a sweet shop. You know, you take them there and they see something, I want that, I want that, I want that.
You're just losing your mind.
And I was fascinated by the motorcycles, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what took me to go towards the club, you know.
Yeah. Tell me something. What do you, okay, this might be an unfair question. and please answer it as fairly as possible, okay?
Yeah.
If you can. What do you think your parents could have done differently in your upbringing? You know, it doesn't matter whether it's for the outcome, you know, how you would end up, or just generally in, you know, your childhood, your experience. What do you think they could have done different to what or how they did things?
To be honest, I don't really know how to answer that because, as I said, you know, they were working all the time. So maybe, as I said, some more one-on-one time.
Right.
You know, more family outings. You know, things that bring the family together. You know, which happen very, very rarely. You know, it maybe like happen once a year. You'd go out for the Sunday or the Saturday. Then of course there was the family holidays. You know, where we of course would go. Being in England, we'd go or to Italy or to Portugal. But once they're there, they catch up with all their relatives, brothers and sisters, and you're put a bit on the sideline, you know?
Right. To play with your cousins.
Exactly, which I didn't understand what they were saying, but you know, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's just a one-on-one time that maybe, you know,
was what was missing.
I think so, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I think anyway.
Right. Right. Well, look, I mean, you know, with me that was absent, right?
Right.
To a degree that I believe I was 7. You know, the neglect. You know,
Yeah.
you just go outside the gate. You know, the parent is doing whatever, and you go outside the gate, and then I got injured because we never had in the environment the kind of play areas that you have, you know, like the parks with the swings and the slides and the merry-go-rounds, etc. And so there were cars that would get burned out and just left there. And that was our seesaw.
Right,
So
okay.
what we used to use to entertain ourselves. And so I lost my balance. That's how I got injured. I lost my balance and I fell underneath and my left leg got trapped. And it really, really got broken.
I mean, in the
Really.
70s.
In the 70s, we now what is called Chris Hani Baragwanath was Baragwanath Hospital, and they were the best doctors because they managed to patch me up together, put a cast, and I had crutches, and you know. The question that I asked about, you know, what do you think plays a bigger role? You know, is it society or is it how your parents brought you up? I agree with you fully when you say it's actually both, all right? Because I know very many people who are great citizens, upstanding, you know, members of society today that grew up in abject poverty, and I'm talking in the most dangerous parts of Soweto town, wherever. But when you look at them today, you can see their successes. You can see how they turned out. So it could actually be both, because also it depends on you as an individual and your willpower.
Of course.
You know, because I'm looking at your situation and look, you kind of had everything that you needed. Okay, you were provided for. And your parents did their best. They tried their best to make sure that, you know, you've got shelter, you've got clothing, you've got food, and you go to school and get educated, etc., etc. But it's your choice or choices that you make at a later stage in your life that will determine where you're going to end up or how you're going to end up.
Of course.
And so that's where I agree with you. I just thought that I should just touch on that. And yeah, I think that we have covered the topic quite well.
Yeah, I think so.
And done very well for our very first episode in this podcast. Please, you can get in touch with us on Twitter. We are MNZ Strokes. Okay, so it's capital M, lowercase n, Z, capital S, and then all lowercase TROKES. Okay, that is MNZ Strokes. Even if there's capital letters or lowercase, it doesn't really matter. You will still be able to get to our handle. You can get in touch with us there. That is Twitter. On Facebook, we are DIFF, DIFF, space Strokes MNZ. So Strokes MNZ is one word. Okay, Strokes is I can't spell. STROKES MNZ. Okay, so diff space
there's actually the
Strokes
sorry
MNZ.
sorry
That's Facebook.
And,
Please,
we have the email
really
too.
would love to hear from you.
We have an email too, which is different.strokesmnz @gmail.com. Whatever you'd like to talk about, as we said, this is the beginning. Now we're going to hopefully grow and hopefully have a phone one day so we can interact directly with the public. We'll start doing a few trial runs to see how it goes, and then hopefully then afterwards we can go live directly, and so we can interact directly with people, whatever the subject is, the topic,
Yes.
whatever. Okay.
Great. Keep your eyes peeled for more videos, more episodes, more topics, and please don't be shy to let us know which topics you'd like us to cover, and we will definitely do our best. So thank you very much, and till next time.
Cheers. Have a great evening.
Cheers.